Hey, what's going on, everybody? Are you guys excited for Theros Beyond Death? Today, we're going to be looking at the top 7 potential cards that we can add into the Pioneer Golgari Midrange deck. I'm going to list them from 7 to 1, 1 being the card most likely to be seen in Pioneer Midrange decks. Yeah. Anyways, this is our deck list. Let's go to number 1. Timeret, Chosen from Death. It's a legendary enchantment creature. The toughness is equal to your devotion to black. So how much black devotion do we have? So one issue is, look at Ooze, Nissa Vastwood, Tireless Tracker, Questing Beast, Nissa, Vital Force, Courser. And a lot of the black spells are not permanents. So that is an issue. They're like removal and discard, right? This ability is better than Ooze in the sense that you can use a colorless mana. So sometimes we find we're out of green mana. But being a 2-color deck, that's not that big of an issue. One place where Ooze would be good is if you only have 3 mana, and they're all green, you can eat 3 creatures and eat 3 things from a graveyard. But this one, if you have 3, you pay 2 mana and then you can't activate the ability again. So I would rate this as pretty much unplayable in the current list. In the main board, I give it a 1 out of 10. And in the sideboard, a 2 out of 10 against graveyard decks. And decks where we need to gain life. Against aggro decks, burn. But I still think Ooze is strictly better than Timeret. Just a note that the enchantment type might be good to grow Tarmogoyf in Modern. But we're going to focus on Pioneer. But at the end of each card, I'm going to talk a little bit about Modern. So coming in at number 6, we got a Rasta of the Endless Web. It's a legendary enchantment creature. It costs 2 colorless and 2 green mana. It has reach. And whenever an opponent casts an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/2 green spider creature token with reach also. And it's a 3 toughness, so 3 power and 5 toughness creature. So I just like to give a quick shout out to Diamonds, Kevin. He analyzed all these cards as well, and he really helped me with my analysis. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of what he said and my opinion, so I really appreciate his contribution. And you can check out his Green Black Rock content on, you search Diamonds MTG right here. You can go on his Twitch here. Anyways, Kevin was saying, this is kind of a card where opponent decides how much value we get. So the opponent knows that if they cast it into the sorcery, we get the token. So they can choose not to cast it right now. And if they do cast it, maybe they don't care too much about the spider creature token, right? They get to decide. Another issue that I found is by the time we get to cast this on turn 4, they easily could have went off already with the instant and sorcery spells. And realistically, we would be casting this on turn 5 or 6. Let me show you guys. So this is land probabilities in Dawn Glare. And let's take a look at this here. So we got like 24 lands. Usually Green Black Rock has 24 or 25 lands. On turn 4, for us to have hit our 4th land drop, is 63%. That means a lot of the times we're playing this on turn 5 or turn 6. So by that time, our opponent would have had time to cast their instant or sorcery spells, and it might be kind of irrelevant at that time. That's one issue. Another reason I don't like this card too much is compared to Questing Beasts, you can't pressure them or the Planeswalker. And I feel Planeswalker are Green Black Rock's biggest threats because we can't counter it, and they get to tick up or down before we get to remove it. So that's kind of a 2-for-1 for their favor, right? We usually want to get rid of it instantly or as soon as possible. Imagine they have a Planeswalker, we cast this, and then they get to use their Planeswalker again, and then we attack into it. And still, it's only 3 attack, but Questing Beast could get rid of it right away after they take up or down 1 time, and we still have a body on the field, right? So when deciding if it's good putting this card in, we look at the other stuff in our 4-drop slot. I personally think Rasta and Questing Beast and Kalidas, they make a bigger impact right away. Rasta can instantly kill a creature, and you still have the body on the field, the Planeswalker on the field. But this guy could just get removed instantly. If it gets removed with an instant or sorcery spell, we get a 1/2 spider token, but I'd rather have a Vraska or Questing Beast, honestly. So because it's strictly worse than Vraska and Questing Beast, I'm gonna give this main board only a 1 out of 10. I think we're never gonna play this. And in the sideboard, if spell matter decks and slow decks, like flying or flying creature decks become a thing, like slow Phoenix, something like that. Slow spell matters. I say slow because this is really slow too. If it comes on turn 5, it might be too late, right? A lot of these decks where they play a lot of instant sorcery, we're dead by then. And also, it only seems to be good against those decks that have flying creatures and try to attack into us with those. But there's some spell combo decks that just can ignore the tokens and win through bolting us in the face or something like Storm, right? Where, oh sure, make all these fire tokens, we still win, right? And yeah, so that was number 6. For Modern, it's another enchantment, so that can make Goyf bigger. But I don't think we're going to be seeing most of these in Modern. So, number 5, we got Omen of the Dead. It is an enchantment for 1 black mana. It has flash. When Omen of the Dead enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. For 2 generic and 1 black, you can sacrifice Omen of the Dead and scry 2. So, what do I think about this card? So, I feel that this card competes with Ooze for food. So, if we want to play this, it might be a little bit as a nombo with Ooze. And also Shaman. Deathray Shaman, you're taking some food for the Shaman. So we need to bring those numbers down, and we need to really think, do we actually want to take Ooze or Shaman out just for this card? Right? Also, this card is basically dead in our hand if we don't have a creature card in our graveyard. And there's actually a lot of matchups where they don't remove our creature. I would say around half the matchups. So a lot of games I play, I don't really see any creatures in my graveyard. Like I try to take down a Lily, and even after turn 5, there's no creatures in the graveyard. We really don't play that many creatures. So what happens, let's say worst case scenario, the floor, we don't have a creature to bring back, we play this anyways, get nothing back, and we sacrifice this to scry 2. That's card disadvantage. We're not drawing a card, we're using 4 mana to scry 2. 4 mana and a card. And we're not even drawing. So if you're not getting a creature card, that's really bad. So in main, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 10. And because of all the reasons I just said. But in the sideboard, I'm going to give it a 5. Because if, like in a mirror, or if they have a lot of removal, we get to choose a creature to get back. And later scry 2 near the late game. That might be able to filter out some lands and get us to keep drawing gas. So that's number 5. Alright, at number 4, we got Poconos Unchained. Polukranos. Okay. Okay, it is a legendary creature, Zombie Hydra. It enters the battlefield with 6 1/1 +1/+1 counters on it. It escapes with 12 +1/+1 counters on it instead. If damage will be dealt to Poconos while it has a +1/+1 counter on it, prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counter from it instead. It has the ability 1 black green. Chronos fights another target creature, and you can escape it for 6 mana. Exile 6 cards from your graveyard and pay that mana cost to get it back. Ooh, a lot of text, so let's analyze this. I feel that Chronos doesn't do a very good job in terms of playing against going wide, because you keep attacking, you swing with it, they can just chump block. It doesn't have trample, and after a while getting chumped, eventually it's gonna die, because basically it has a Soul Scar Mage effect on it. It's just gonna get smaller and smaller, and that's really bad. Again, exiling 6 cards from your graveyard. Again, that's a number with Ooze and Deathray Shaman. So is this card really better than Ooze and Deathray Shaman? And are other 4-drops not as good? Is it better than our 4-drop slots? So I really don't think so. Questing Beast can attack right away. This one doesn't have haste. And Questing Beast can go through creature tokens. Questing Beasts have Death Touch. And Questing Beast can pressure Planeswalkers and their life total. So I think Questing Beast is better than this in the main board for sure. So I'm only giving this a 3 out of 10 in the main board. So also, the fight another creature, they're at least a 1 toughness or 2 toughness. So that's pretty bad, because it's going to just keep shrinking our Pokeranos, and they can also exile our graveyard and we just can't get it back, right? So that's another issue. In the sideboard, I would give this card a 4 out of 10. I think there are certain matchups where this would be good, but it doesn't look too promising. And let's move on to the cards that I think are the top 3. So we got, coming at number 3, we got Woe Strider. It is a creature of horror type. When Woe Strider enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 white gold creature token. You can sacrifice another creature and scry 1. You can escape it. Exile 4 cards from your graveyard, pay 3 generic and 2 black. And when you bring it back with escape, you get to have 2 extra +1/+1 counters. So it becomes a 5/4. Alright, so let's analyze this card. I feel there are a lot of value in this card because at the enter the battlefield, a lot of cards have, unless it's control, we're going to get that value. And let's say they remove it, they like bolt it, or, you know, push, revolve, something like this. They remove it. We still get that creature token. And honestly, that creature token in our game plan is pretty good because we are trying to drag out the game a little bit from like turn 3 to 4. And then later we cast our turn 4 or 5, 6 huge threats. We just try to block a little bit, maybe chump block 1 more, and then we draw another removal. We finally get rid of that big creature, keep our life total high. So yeah, it will allow to chump so we can survive another turn to play that big Planeswalker or Questing Beast. And again, the escape really competes with Ooze and Shaman, so we really got to think, do we want to not play that many Ooze and Shaman? Is this better than Ooze and Shaman? So that's an issue. What I also like is you can get the chump block with the goat, because that's not killing anything. And you can scry 1 after. So that's pretty good. And if you look at it, if you get to escape it, it's actually 4 bodies. So, and later on at 5/4, that could be pretty relevant. So I actually think this might see some play in decks that don't have flying creatures, that you know, maybe they play just a few really big creatures. This can be 4 blocks. Because when it comes back, it makes another 0/1 white token, and it has a 5/4 body. So this is a lot of promise. I'd say we bring it in for grindy matchups against creature decks that try to beat us on the ground. All right, coming in at number 2, we got Soul Guide Lantern. It's an artifact. When Soul Guide Lantern enters the battlefield, exile target card from a graveyard. It has tap, sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern, and exile each opponent's graveyard. And it has 1 mana, sacrifice Soul Guide Lantern, and draw a card. Okay, so we don't have Spellbomb in Pioneer because it's too old. I believe it's from 2010, and Pioneer starts from 2012. So this is definitely a less powerful Spellbomb. But it's decent because we don't have anything too much good Grave Hate at the moment. So this is kind of a less powerful Grave Hate. The biggest issue is most of our Grave Hate before was at instant speed. Spellbomb, we could Spellbomb in response to something before they get to use the value, before they get to dredge, before their draw step, right? And same with Ooze. So this one, the timing is going to be really weird. We can't eat their, you know, certain pieces in response, or like maybe they mill something on their draw step, and then we can't exile their graveyard so that we can't get rid of their graveyard before their main phase 1, so they can play their delve threat. Issues like that. Sometimes at our end step, they do, you know, like they do a few cycling things, or like get some dredge cards into the graveyard, and then before the draw step, we can exile the graveyard usually before with Ooze and Spellbomb. So another issue is it does exile a card right now at sorcery speed. A lot of the times, these graveyard decks, there's a few things we want to take away. There's not really like just one card we want to take away. So it kind of sucks that we can't. By the way, I know you can sacrifice, but at instant speed. But what I was talking about was this, because I would like to draw a card, but you do still have the option to sacrifice their graveyard at instant speed. But basically, you're losing a card to do that, and that feels really bad, because in this matchup, you're trying to trade 1 for 1. You never want to get 2 for 1. And this is kind of like you're just losing a card to exile their graveyard, and they could fill it up again, because their graveyard, is it worth a card? You got to make that distinction, and yeah, you got to think about that. Anyways, let's move on to number 1. Shadow Spear. Legendary artifact. Equipped creature. Oh, sorry, I forgot to give the rating. I would give this a main board 0, because a lot of Pioneer decks don't do graveyard stuff right now. And in the side, a 7. In Modern, it'll be really low, but it's a 7 because it's one of the easy to cast Grave Hate that you could draw if, you know, in the future, if you have some flexibility. You could also sack it instant speed at the cost of losing a card, which I'm not a fan of, but if you have to, you get to make that decision, right? But it's a decision that I usually don't want to make. I want to have a little bit of card advantage and then take over the game. Anyways, let's look at Shadow Spear. So, equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample and lifelink. You pay 1, permanents your opponents control lose hexproof and is indestructible until the end of turn. 2 to equipped. So this equipment does a lot. If Boggles becomes tier 1, this would definitely be one of in our sideboard. And not only Boggles, there's a lot of new gods recently. Let me show you guys. Alright guys, so this is Theros Beyond Death. The most sought after cards, like a lot of them have indestructible. A lot of these new gods. So Shadow Sphere will allow us to kill those gods. And that's really important because we don't have Path to Exile in our green-black deck, right? So that's another big one. The life gain is also very important because lifelink, we want to drag the game out against aggro decks, have a life buffer, and then we get our threats down. We get questing bees. We get, the big planeswalker. So that would be really nice to bring in against burn and any goblins. Those aggressive tribal decks. And equipping it on the questing beast seems to be very good value, especially against aggro decks. Gain 5 life immediately. Whew. Trample. Wow. I would say trample is actually the least relevant keyword because we're not a deck that's trying to trample and be super aggressive. We're trying to gain some life, hold back, and keep getting value. It is good against go wide small creature decks, but this isn't relevant most of the time. But if you do see that, bring this in. That'll be good too, especially if they have lifelink, or especially if they're aggressive too, or pressuring your life total, or have hexproof or indestructible. So in Modern, it's another artifact type in the yard. I think it's in the main board. This is pretty much almost a 0 out of 10. It's strictly a sideboard card. But in the sideboard, depending on the meta, right now, if those gods become played a lot, I think it's going to be pretty high, like a 8. And it's just hard to tell right now. It really depends on the meta, but it's just a really good tool to have. So let me know if you guys have any more cards you have your eye on, any opinion on my opinion, and let's have a discussion in the comments. I'm very excited for this new set. I'm kind of disappointed that the best cards are not black-green and everyone else can play it. But this is especially good in our deck because, some decks, they're not trying to lifelink, and some decks like Burn, they don't want to make you a permanent your opponent control lose hexproof because they're just trying to burn you in the face, right? So they're usually not burning the creature. So what I'm saying is, even though it's colorless, it seems like everyone can use it. Shadow Sphere seems to be designed for a mid-range deck, an interactive deck. Also, Soul Guide Lantern. I feel, we're trying to stop their game plan so we can take over turn 4 or 5 with our big threats. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys, if you haven't subscribed already, I hope you subscribe. And I'm going to be buying some of these cards right when the set comes out and streaming for y'all. And yeah, thanks for sticking around. I really hope you guys leave a comment. It's really nice to have a conversation, and it really encourages me to make more videos when I see you guys interacting with me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. See you later, guys.